The flashing blue and red lights cut through the thick, suffocating fog of a lonely stretch of Ohio's Highway 32 at 2:14 a.m. Officer Miller thought he was pulling over a silver sedan for a simple broken taillight, a routine task to end a quiet shift. He expected a nervous teenager, a tired commuter, or perhaps someone who'd had one too many drinks at the local tavern. He didn't expect the smell. That metallic copper scent that sticks to the back of your throat and triggers an ancestral alarm in the brain. As the driver slowly rolled down the window, his hands trembling with such violence they rattled against the steering wheel, Miller's flashlight beam danced across the cluttered interior. It passed over empty fast food bags and discarded receipts until it landed on the back seat. There, tucked under a stained floral-patterned picnic blanket, a pale, lifeless hand reached out from the shadows, fingers slightly curled as if pleading for one last chance at justice. "Sir," Miller whispered, his voice cracking as his hand instinctively dropped to the cold grip of his holster. "I'm going to need you to step out of the vehicle. Very slowly. Keep your hands where I can see them." This was no longer a routine stop. This was the sudden, jarring end of a nightmare and the beginning of a descent into a level of suburban malice that the town of Mapleton was never prepared to face. To truly understand how a mundane Tuesday night turned into a crime scene that would haunt the Midwest for decades, we have to look beneath the surface of Mapleton's quiet, tree-lined streets. Mapleton was the kind of place where the local diner knew your order before you sat down, and the biggest news was usually the high school football scores. It was here that Sarah Jenkins lived her life with a quiet, radiant purpose. A 32-year-old pediatric nurse, Sarah was known for her infectious laugh and a level of empathy that made her a hero to the children in the oncology ward. She was the heart of her community, a woman who spent her weekends volunteering at animal shelters and her evenings gardening in her small, pristine backyard. But while Sarah was sowing life, someone else was cultivating death. The man behind the wheel of that silver sedan was David Thorne. To his colleagues at the accounting firm, David was the epitome of reliability, a gray man who blended into the background, efficient and entirely unremarkable. He was the man who brought donuts on Fridays and never missed a deadline. But investigators would later discover that David Thorne was a master of masks, a man who lived a secondary, silent life in the peripheral vision of society. For 18 months, David had transformed his unremarkable existence into a specialized mission of obsession. He didn't just have a crush on Sarah. He had a blueprint of her life. He had meticulously documented her every move, creating a terrifying archive of her existence. He knew that she took exactly 22 minutes to drive to work. He knew she liked her coffee black with a hint of cinnamon. He knew which window in her house had a faulty latch. In the digital age, stalking has become a silent plague, and David was a predator who used every tool at his disposal. He had installed a GPS tracker on the underside of her car during a late-night excursion to her driveway. He had used high-powered lenses to take photos of her through her living room window, capturing her in her most vulnerable moments, reading, sleeping, living completely unaware that she was the protagonist in a horror movie she didn't know was filming. On the night of October 12th, the air was crisp, smelling of fallen leaves and wood smoke. Sarah had just finished a grueling double shift at the hospital, her mind occupied by the recovery of a young patient. She was exhausted, her guard lowered by the familiar comfort of her neighborhood. She didn't notice the silver sedan parked 3 blocks away, hidden in the shadow of a sprawling oak tree. She didn't see the silhouette moving through the darkness of her backyard, stepping over the flower beds she had tended to so lovingly. As she inserted her key into the lock of her back door, the world was silent, save for the rhythmic chirping of crickets. That silence was shattered the moment she stepped inside. David hadn't just broken in, he had made himself a ghost in her home. He had been sitting in her darkened kitchen for 3 hours, listening to the hum of her refrigerator, waiting for the sound of her tires on the gravel. The struggle was brief but hauntingly violent. Sarah fought with the desperate, jagged strength of someone who had spent her life saving others. But David's rage was a physical weight, a manifestation of months of perceived rejections and imagined slights. He didn't just want to end her life. He wanted to extinguish her light. After the struggle ended, a chilling calm descended upon David. He didn't flee. He didn't call for help. Instead, he moved through the house with a terrifying sense of domesticity. He cleaned the kitchen counter. He straightened a rug. Then, he wrapped Sarah's body in a blanket from her own bed, the floral pattern that would later become a grim icon of the case. He loaded her into the trunk of his car, his mind already spinning a web of escape. He planned to drive south, into the dense, unmapped woods of the Appalachian foothills, where the earth is deep and secrets stay buried. But the universe has a way of tripping up even the most meticulous monsters. A single tiny filament in his right taillight had burned out a mundane mechanical failure that would become the most important event in Mapleton's history. When Officer Miller saw that dark light, he saw a minor traffic violation. He didn't know he was looking at the undoing of a killer. During the interrogation, which lasted over 14 hours, David Thorne sat with a posture that was eerily composed. He spoke in a soft, monotone voice, describing the murder as if he were recounting a boring business meeting. He told detectives that Sarah belonged to him and that by taking her life, he was simply reclaiming his property. The psychological profile that emerged was one of a profound sociopath, a man who lacked the hardware for empathy and instead operated on a software of entitlement and cold calculation. The discovery of his trophy room in his basement sent shockwaves through the police department. It wasn't just photos. It was hair ties she had dropped mail he had stolen from her trash, and even a recorded audio file of her laughing with a friend captured through a hidden microphone he had planted under her porch months prior. The community of Mapleton fractured. Trust was replaced by suspicion. People began looking at their neighbors, their friends, and their coworkers, wondering what secrets were hidden behind their polite smiles. The trial was a grueling ordeal that stripped away any remaining sense of security. The defense tried to argue a diminished capacity, but the sheer volume of his preparation, the trackers, the logs, the pre-dug site in the woods made it clear that this was no crime of passion. It was an execution. When the jury returned a verdict of guilty on all counts, there was no cheering, only a heavy, collective sigh of grief. David Thorne was sentenced to life without the possibility of parole, destined to wither away in a 6-by-9-foot cell, a fittingly small space for a man with such a small, hollow soul. But for the Jenkins family, the verdict brought no closure. They are left with a house that is too quiet and a garden that has since overgrown with weeds, a living testament to a life cut short. The silver sedan remains in a police impound lot, a rusted monument to a night where the mundane met the macabre. This case remains a cornerstone of criminal psychology, a dark reminder that the most dangerous predators don't always lurk in the woods sometimes. They drive silver sedans and work in accounting. It forces us to confront the uncomfortable truth that we are all just one routine stop away from uncovering a secret that could change our world forever. As the sun rises over Mapleton today, the town looks the same, but the people are different. They lock their doors twice. They check their back seats. They look at the shadows a little longer. Because they know that out there in the dark there are others like David, men of masks waiting for a light to go out. What do you think? Was David Thorne a calculated mastermind who made one fatal mistake, or was he a ticking time bomb destined to be caught regardless? Does the thought of the neighbor next door being a monster scare you more than a stranger in the dark? Let me know your theories in the comments below. If you found this deep dive into the Midnight Crime Vault chilling, make sure to hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and join our community of investigators. We uncover the secrets the world tries to bury. Until next time, stay vigilant.